Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the meeting. I'd like to say thank you to everybody for being here tonight on a beautiful night outside. Another great day. The Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister and a couple of other federal ministers came to visit today, and we had a great chance to have a chat this morning, but loved our childcare center on St. Catherine Street, and then we're here to take a look at it and talk about childcare. And so that's 3 times in the last year the Prime Minister has come to visit St. Thomas. I think he's beginning to find the place. So that works very well for us. This is the 21st meeting of the 144th Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas. Are there any disclosures of interest from any of the members? Seeing none, all those, sorry, we don't have to vote on that. Minutes.
I have a motion that the minutes of the meeting held on May the 6th, 2024 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Peters.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Council will resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with following business. First committee this evening is strategic direction and development. First item relates to electric vehicle charging stations. I have a motion that report PD 1224 relating to electric vehicle charging stations be received for information, and further that council directs staff to engage with a qualified and experienced consultant to provide an analysis of potential for partnerships, incentive programs, and municipal regulations needed to implement effective policy and guidance for EV charging stations throughout the municipality, and to develop a guideline document which could form part of the official plan as well as a basis to further implement future amendments to city bylaws, regulations, forms, and programs to assist homeowners, developers, and the municipality in addressing its strategic goals relating to environmental stewardship and encouraging EV charging station installations throughout the city. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Wookey.
Questions or comments? Councillor Clark.
Just wonder if we could get a ballpark figure on what we think, based on the parameters, what the cost will be for such a consultant.
Mr. Pompili.
Through you, Your Worship, I'm not 100% sure. I would think for a study like that, there are a lot of experienced consultants out there. We could also engage with ones, some that are currently doing some work for the city. Our transportation master plan, for one, there's a consultant there that we could work with to maybe expand some of the work, broaden some of the work. I would guess that that would probably cost somewhere in the neighborhood of about $20,000 if I had to guess.
Okay. Councillor Peters.
Thanks, Worship. Luke can just remain there. Moving forward with the consultant or engaging a consultant, one of the things that I'd like to see come back to council in advance is some terms of reference for what we want the consultant to do and not do. You know, I think you look around the city. I just looked at some numbers. You know, you've got currently 15,000 single family units in the city right now, 103 units with 6 or more residences. And yeah, it's good to focus on new development, but how are we going to deal with the existing housing stock that we already have? You know, as an example, today, just before I came to the meeting, I paced it out to where I park my car. I live in the downtown core. I live in a building that is 100 years old. I share a driveway with 2 other residences, and it is 120 feet, or, you know, ballpark, 120 feet from my panel in my basement to where I park my car. That means there's a maple tree, a chestnut tree, a driveway, etc. How do I get the infrastructure from my house to where I park my vehicle? So I would hope that we look at how we deal with the retrofit of existing buildings and build that into the terms of reference for the consultant. To me, the low-hanging easy fruit is the new construction. It's Steve's two properties on St. Catherine Street that are the challenge to me. So look forward to any comments you might have.
Thank you. Councillor Wookey.
Thanks, your worship. I just want to say thanks to Mr. Pompilli. You know, there's this thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect where when you learn a little bit, you think you know a lot. And you know, it's an interesting thing where you think you kind of know what EV chargers are all about. And then you read this and you're like, wow, that was a lot more than I like. So for me, I'm all for us having a consultant because I am far less sure about what I think about them than I was a week ago at this time. Like there's just a lot of different types, a lot of different, like, and as Councilor Peters saying, all these other parameters. So I'm very interested in hearing what somebody who knows a lot more about it than I do thinks about this, because now this is not an insult, this is a compliment to your report. I'm more confused now. Like, because, you know, that's the situation, is that there's a lot going on in this. And, you know, aside from just the basics of Tesla's proprietary, like they have their own chargers, and then I mean, that's a whole different deal, you know? So thanks, Mr. Pompilli, because I learned a lot from that. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll record your confusion. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Thank you. First, I would also like to thank Mr. Pompilli for the report. I put this forward as a staff direction and then followed it up with a notice of motion. So I'm very happy to see this very thorough, thoughtful, detailed report. My first question to Mr. Pompilli is in regards to the statement about going into the city's official plan. And if I could, what are the steps that are you going to do in order to ensure that it does hit the city's official plan?
Mr. Pompilli?
Through you, your worship, I'll provide a response to Councillor Baldwin Sands' question and also kind of address some of the other comments that have been made as well. As far as our OP, what I'm anticipating or envisioning is that at the end of the day, we'd have a guideline document to help inform additional city policy, city direction, but also to inform residents, developers, and investors. So my hope is that would then become a guiding document of the official plan. So it would be referenced in our official plan that there are guiding documents around EV charging stations or specific policies around EV charging stations for when new development is proposed, for when new city projects are proposed, municipal projects, upgrades, that there be some component or a lens on providing EV charging stations through that. So that's where the goal is in terms of trying to link in the official plan through that. As far as some of the other comments, yes, to Councillor Wookey's comments. I'm not an expert. Not all of us here on staff are experts, so you hit it on the head. I think we do need to get ahead of this and make sure that as we move forward, that we are putting forward our best efforts in terms of the approach that we take for around EV charging stations. We're going to be on the map now when it comes to electric vehicle production. So I think we can lead by example by making sure that we're doing all that we can to provide an infrastructure for charging stations. So that's where the rationale is around that. We could introduce some quick wins. I could develop new policies and add regulations and add them to the OP. That new development provide X% of EV charging stations. I think that's the direction we'll go, but to do it haphazardly and not in an informed fashion, I don't think is the best approach to make. We want it when we do make those advances, we want to make sure that we advance something that can be implemented and that has an infrastructure behind it, whether it's policy, maybe some incentive programs to assist with, or just a how-to guide. I think that goes to Councillor Peters' comment. There definitely are going to be challenges in old neighborhoods from not only the built form, but also with the capacity of some of those homes in terms of what voltage they have available that would require some upgrading and updates. So what can the city do to better help inform those property owners or assist those property owners? It could, the guiding document could simply provide a good roadmap for how to or best practices. To, again, I'm going back to providing, maybe providing some sort of incentives. So that's the goal. I think that I'm trying to get that direction from council to help us move forward. And certainly, my plan is to report back, whether it's to report back with the terms of reference or to report back with, any information that we have as we continue forward with hiring a consultant. I'll bring forward to council.
Thank you. Follow up, Councillor Baldwin Sense?
Yes, I have a couple. Thank you for stating some of the things that you had stated. I also understand that the strategic initiatives manager is made a request to city department heads. Could you talk a little bit about that and how this fits with that initiative?
Absolutely. Through your worship. Yes, one of the strategic initiatives that have been implemented is kind of centered around environmental stewardship and encouraging EV charging stations installations throughout the city. And what we're doing and what we're advancing is in line with that. And I've identified that as one of the tasks that we need to complete in order to kind of check off meeting those strategic initiatives in terms of coming up with specific guidelines, specific policy directions, and any other tools that we can. And this, moving forward in this direction, will address that.
Good.
I also appreciate that you recognize the federal push for electric vehicles for 2030 and 2035 deadlines. Could you talk about what you put in the report, please?
So, yeah, through your worship, that's just stating some of the information that's out there and some of the, the overarching goals that other levels of government have set, that the expectation is for the industry to kind of fall in line and be prepared. So I think this positions us, if those targets of 2030, 2035 remain intact, that we at least will be in a position to have our community here prepared for that.
Councillor Baldwin Sense?
Thank you. Also in your report, you talk about retrofitting is more costly than doing the installation while buildings are being built, whether they're commercial or retail or residential. I really appreciate that. When I was doing my research, when I requested that report originally, it was for the easiest way to describe it, it was like adding a dryer vent for a new build, but adding a dryer vent to an older or existing home is very complicated in order to make that happen. So thank you for pulling that out in your report. I also appreciated that you talked about the leadership with EV, with the VW site, and how we have the ability to transform not just our economy, but the ones around us. So our leadership in that, in our community as well, is very much appreciated in that report. You also said one thing about best practices, and a few minutes ago, I just happened to have my climate caucus meeting, which is a national committee of over 700 elected officials from across Canada. And the board met today, and I'm truly blessed to be on the board. But the vice chair of that board is one of those identified. And she has provided to me at about 4 o'clock, which I've sent to you. I hope you get an opportunity to read it. She has provided a step-by-step approach on what they are doing in their community in order to make that happen. So the whole part whole method that they are doing, how they're putting it in to all of their city strategies in order to make that happen for their community. So thank you for sharing that. So I was able to do follow up with my climate caucus colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments for Mr. Pompili? Lou, thank you. Very detailed start to this, but we all know how complicated it is. So there's sooner we can work together with you and get a report back for us to start making, there's a lot of bylaws and other things that go with this. And since we're a community that's going to make batteries, we better kind of lead the way on this one too. So thank you for your hard work already. Further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to community improvement plan project for the property at 200 Center Street. I have a motion that report PD 1324 relating to a community improvement project by 100576333 Ontario Corporation for 200 Center Street be received for information. And further, the council approve a residential grant and loan, development charge grant, tax increment grant, and planning and building fees grant for application 2024-138 as submitted by 100576333 Ontario Corporation for 200 Center Street. And further, the council direct that a bylaw be prepared to enter into a residential loan agreement with 100576333 Ontario Corporation relating to a CIP project at 200 Chestnut Street. Moved by Councillor McCauley, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to a community improvement plan project for the property at 25 Alexandria Avenue. I have a motion that report PD 15-2024 relating to a community improvement project by Prespa Construction Limited for 25 Alexandria Avenue be received for information. And further, the council approve a community improvement residential grant, tax increment grant, development charge grant, parkland dedication grant, and planning and building fees grant for application 2024-138 as submitted by Prespa Construction Limited for 25 Alexandria Avenue. Moved by Councillor Kohler. Seconded by Councillor Wookey.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to a community improvement plan project for the property at 76 Roseberry Place. I have a motion that report PD 14-2024 relating to a community improvement project by Alexander Wilhelm Zulu for 76 Roseberry Place be received for information. And further, the council approve a community improvement residential grant for application 2024-140 as submitted by Alexander Wilhelm Zulu for 76 Roseberry Place. Moved by Councillor Clark. Seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the first report of the Site Plan Control Committee. I have a motion that report PD 16-2024 relating to site plan application number SPC 0124 be received for information. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to Eastwood Housing Highview Hideaway Affordable Housing Project. I have a motion, and actually we have Mr. John McCurry from Eastwood Housing Corporation with us this evening as well. The motion reads as follows, that report SCSS 0924 relating to Eastwood Housing's Highview Hideaway Affordable Housing Project be received for information. And further, the council support Eastwood Housing's Highview Hideaway Affordable Housing Project with a $3 million commitment towards the development of 48 affordable housing units contingent upon a successful application to CMHC co-investment federal funding. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments?
And your worship, we do have the gentleman here if
We do. What?
Yep.
Should we let John do the presentation first and then ask questions of it? Okay. Let's do that way. I like a man who comes prepared, John. That's excellent. Thank you.
It's two-sided, so the folks behind you can see it
Yeah.
as well.
Excellent. Please, tell us what Eastwood Housing is planning and we know what your ask is of us, but we may have some questions for you.
Absolutely. Well, good evening, your worship, members of council, city staff, and guests. I am John McCurry. I'm the Director of Operations for Eastwood Housing Corporation. We're a Christian nonprofit affordable housing corporation here in the great city of St. Thomas.
whose team of motivated and dedicated staff are committed to ministering to the residents of St. Thomas and Elgin County through affordable housing. Thank you for allowing me to take a few minutes of your time tonight to discuss our newest project entitled Highview Hideaway. I'd like to begin with a question. Where do you call home? Many of us can answer that question with a physical address. However, many in our city and county do not have that privilege and answer that question with my friend's couch in their basement, a shelter or temporary location, or I don't have one. We have a great need for affordable housing in our city and county. I'm pleased to know that this council supports the creation of new affordable housing. As you will see in the report SESS 0924 submitted by Heather, Director of St. Thomas Elgin Services, Social Services, we began our work in 1982 with the creation of our first apartment building on Wellington Street, specifically for senior residents. This building consists of 26 affordable units. In the past 42 years, we have expanded to over 325 units, including apartments and townhouses for all ages and groups of people. This includes our latest acquisition in Aylmer of a 50-unit townhouse complex. We're pleased to inform you that all of our present 325 units are affordable, which indicates the rent is 80% or less than CMHC average market rents for this area. And that is our purpose, affordable housing. As St. Thomas grows with the addition of the Amazon distribution center, the Volkswagen battery plant, the many other companies that will come to our great city, in the next few years comes the need for more housing, specifically more affordable housing. Along with the long centralized wait lists for affordable housing, this presents a great need. Thus, to assist with that need, we are building Highview Hideaway, an 82-unit, 5-story building on Highview Drive here in St. Thomas. This building, as previously mentioned, will consist of 48 affordable units, broken down as follows. There will be 33 ultra affordable units and 15 affordable units. Ultra affordable is defined as less than 70% of the market rents. It will also have 17 barrier-free units. And as previously mentioned, our present inventory is 100% affordable. And our goal with Highview Hideaway is to be 100% affordable after a few years of operating. But to begin, we need to have some market units to meet the pro forma guidelines with CMHC. We have partnered with Doug Terry Homes to build this new building and are pleased to say that this will be a wooden building, which means it will reduce the carbon footprint by over 600,000 metric tons, and zero fossil fuels will be required to run the building, as it will be 100% electric building. Also, thus extremely efficient, which adds to the increasing affordability to our tenants. The building will have a dual fuel generator, being natural gas and diesel, to ensure power during power outages and tenant comfort. The building will also be built to net zero ready standards and solar ready. We'll have on-site laundry facilities, lounge for tenant use, scooter charging facilities, on-site parking, outdoor recreational space, including a pickleball court and garden areas. And the building is located in a very central location near amenities such as shopping, food, and public transit. We will also have a retail space in the building, which we are considering leasing to supporting services, thus offering supports to our tenants as they live independently. We're dedicated to partnering with the City of St. Thomas for tenancy selection for the affordable units in this building, as together we reduce the affordable housing wait list and the by names list. We will also be partnering with local supportive housing providers to accomplish the same. We are leaders in affordable housing in St. Thomas and Elgin County and have partnered with the City of St. Thomas in the past, and we have a great relationship and partnership with them presently. It's a pleasure to present our Highview Hideaway project to you all this evening, and I thank you in advance for your review and consideration of the report that Heather has submitted for a commitment of $3 million towards this very important project. We are applying for CMHC co-investment funding for this project, and the financial commitment from the City of St. Thomas is one of the last pieces we need to submit our application, which we are confident will be approved. Our plan, as seen in the report, is to break ground in July of 2024, with occupancy as early as the early part of 2026. We all work very hard every day to ensure a home for everyone in our city and county. And I'm reminded of the starfish story. Once upon a time, there was an old man who used to go to the ocean to do his reading. He had a habit of walking on the beach every morning before he began his work. Early one morning, he was walking along the shore after a big storm had passed and found the vast beach littered with starfish as far as the eye could see, stretching in both directions. Off in the distance, the old man noticed a small boy approaching. As the boy walked, he paused every so often, and as he grew closer, the man could see that he was occasionally bending down to pick up an object and throw it into the sea. The boy came closer still, and the man called out, "Good morning. May I ask what you're doing?" The young boy paused, looked up and replied, "Throwing starfish into the ocean. The tide has washed them up onto the beach, and they can't return to the sea by themselves. When the sun gets high, they will die unless I get them back into the water." The old man replied, "But there must be tens of thousands of starfish on this beach. I'm afraid you won't really be able to make much of a difference." The boy bent down, picked up yet another starfish, and threw it as far as he could into the ocean. Then he turned and smiled and said to the old man, "It made a difference to that one." This is very applicable to our Highview Hideaway project in that, yes, there are a lot of people in need of affordable housing right now. And together we're making a difference with this project by creating 82 new homes for people who need them. We look forward to hearing from you about your continued commitment to creating more affordable housing. And thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you this evening about this amazing project that we call Highview Hideaway. Thank you very much.
Great work. Thank you very much. Questions and comments? Counselor Clark?
I think this is a great project and a great partnership for the city. And obviously Eastwood has a great track record of success. So I look forward to the project. A question for our staff. The ask was 3.5 and we're recommending 3 based on the fact that there's no wraparound services. I was just wondering if someone from the city staff could just highlight whether or not we would be, with the money saved, providing some support services.
Ms. Sheridan?
Good evening, through you, Mayor, to Councillor Clark. So can you repeat the question again for me? Sorry.
Sure. The ask was 3.5
Yeah.
and we're recommending 3.
Mhm.
And part of the rationale was that the apartments were not going to have tenant supports.
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering whether our staff with the savings will be providing some of those tenant supports ongoing.
So the short answer is no, that's not, the ask is for capital. So the supports are all through operational funds. So when we looked at this project and the ask, we have supported other projects that include supportive housing, and I think the support part is really valuable. So I wanted to take that in consideration when we looked at the amount we were applying to each door. So for example, we've approved in the past 75,000 a door for supportive and affordable housing. In this case, it's affordable housing. So that's what the decision
Peters.
was.
Good. Counselor Kohler?
Thanks, Your Worship. I certainly support this, and Eastwood's done a great job in the community for many years. I just like with our investment, and I think some of it comes through the agreements with CMHC and co-investment. What's going to be in there and for time frame on how long these will remain affordable units for that investment?
I can allow John to answer that, but I'll also just add that we are looking about 2 years from now. But during the next little bit, if it is approved tonight, we will be putting together an agreement between Eastwood and the city with regards to the 3 million. And within that agreement, it will talk about the tenancy selection, how many years we will look at this kind of arrangement, but they are affordable housing. And I expect for the next 50 years, but do you want to answer?
It depends on how well the building's built. But yes, our goal right now, it will not be 100% affordable with the CMHC pro forma. But our goal is to, over a few years, when we see our operating surpluses and deficits as they may happen, is to turn it entirely into 100% affordable. So forever, as long as past my retirement.
Counselor Baldwin-Sands?
Just a comment. This is a great win-win-win situation for all involved. I fully support. Thank you.
Counselor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. Thank you for your presentation. This is pretty exciting for us, for sure. When I first reelected council 5 years ago, one of the things everybody talked about, we got to have affordable housing, got to have affordable housing. And I was fortunate enough to attend a seminar where they were asking, what is the definition of affordable housing? 4 words came out of that seminar: what you can afford. So if you're making 100,000, you can afford 2,000 or 3,000 a month. This is for these people at the lower end of the scale, and you're dedicating that building to truly affordable housing. So I support that 100% and congratulations. I hope the sooner you get it built, the better. We have lots of people, I'm sure would apply through the Heather's Place. So anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Wookie, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I have a few questions for Ms. Sheridan, if I could, just on the city side of things, if we could. In terms of who's going to be living here, we hear about the by names list, and if you can just talk about, there was Ms. Sheridan and I talked on the phone earlier today, but it's important. I think we all hear this. So you've got two different lists, right? So if you could talk about the two different lists, some that are our clients and some that are not, could you just explain how those things work together, if you could? Thanks.
Sorry. Thank you through you, Mayor Preston, to Councillor Wookie. So we did have a chat today, and I'll just give you a couple of things that we talked about. So the centralized wait list is the wait list that we have that is run through the city for affordable housing. So that is income tested, but it could be somebody who works and has low income. It could be somebody on assistance, so Ontario Works, ODSP. It could be a low income senior that has other sources of income. So anybody can apply to the centralized wait list. And right now we are approximately 1,400 people on the wait list. When we look at our by names list, we're talking about people who are experiencing homelessness or at risk of experiencing homelessness. And that's a different list, completely separate. When we talk about Highview Hideaway and the relationship that we'll have with them, they won't have supports attached, but they'll be part of our homelessness system and our central waitlist system. So let's say, for example, somebody has been living at the YWCA for 5 years and is now able to live independently with low supports or no supports. That person might get a unit at Highview Hideaway, which would free up a unit that's at the YWCA that offers higher level supports, or at Indwell that offers higher level supports. So it's all about the system within our community, and it's worked really well up until this point, and this is an added option within that system. So we're excited about it and thankful to Eastwood for it.
Go ahead, Councillor Wookie.
Thank you. So what's interesting here is that we've talked a lot about, homelessness prevention and providing housing for homeless folks, but this also covers some of the other side of like affordable on the wait list, again, of seniors or anybody who just is, my parents would always say is the working poor, or however you want to phrase that. So I like the fact that this looks at both sides of that and that we're starting to address some of the other side as well. And we also talked about this, but the other thing is I get hung up on processes, and my challenge here is, if they're on our list in terms of they're an ODSP, OW person, or they're one of our clients, okay, fine. We have control. We know what's going on. When we go out in the community and we have other people staying there, how do we assess whether they still need affordable housing? Because the classic one is somebody moves in with somebody and doubles their income. But of course, I hate to sound jaded, but they don't want to move out, because why would you want to move out of an apartment where you're now splitting the rent on $867 a month? And then how is that monitored? And perhaps this is a question for John, but like, how do we go about making sure that people who need it, have it, and those who don't need it anymore, I hate to say it, but they no longer have it and they pay market rent either there or someplace else? So if I could get some commentary on that, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I can start if you'd like, and then John could join in.
Great.
So right now, and it'll be with this situation too, people will have to be income tested when they first get an apartment, right? And that's what we would do with social housing and with rent geared to income housing. So with rent geared to income housing, every year we check everybody's income, and if it has gone up a substantial amount, then your rent changes with regards to how much more money you've received. So if you've now have a spouse and you're both working, then your rent might go to market rent. So it's it's on a scale. It's called rent geared to income housing. For this project and for most rent geared to income housing is kind of a day, like it's kind of gone by the wind. We still have some, of course, but nowadays when we talk about like affordable housing, you would qualify when you first apply for assistance. And every year we would look at your income, but it wouldn't be the same kind of oversight that we would have in rent geared to income. But I'm going to let John add to that if you'd like to.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Wookie. This happens every day. We have 158 present rent geared to income units in our corporation at present. Every year we review their income. It goes up, it gets up to a point where it's temporary market, the equivalent to affordable market. But as Heather mentioned, with this building, it's 100% affordable market. Yes, their income will increase. They will hopefully be looking for somewhere else to live because they have more money. But there is no way, like with our rent geared income, we can issue a falsifying income statement and they have to prove it to us. But there is no way to encourage them to leave as per se. We're glad they have a home. A lot of people unfortunately do this. The girl will move in or the guy will move in, bring the partner with them 3 or 4 months later. And because it's classified as an affordable market unit, there is no real regulation that we can say, you need to look elsewhere. We have a lot right now in our corporation with 325 units. We have a lot in our rent geared income at that temporary market level. They're looking for many reasons. They can't afford a mortgage. We all know those reasons right now. Some prefer to rent, but there is no rental market anywhere to move to. So they have a 3-bedroom townhouse at $950, finished basement. Grass is cut for them, new roof is put on for them, all exterior expenses are paid for them. I wouldn't go anywhere either, being honest. So yeah, it's a catch-22, if you will, with it because it will be affordable market. But as Heather did mention, they will be income tested for the affordable units in this building at the initial onslaught in about 18 months to 2 years.
John, don't go anywhere. Just God bless you to what you're doing here. 82 more units in our community. And I thank this council for always being supportive in the 5 years we've been together on housing. But when somebody from outside of this council comes to us with a proposal like this, of course, we're going to say, thank you. And we want to help. And I'll even offer to Heather, anything we can do to help with the CMHA part of the discussion too. You know that we're fairly good at our advocacy work too. Wish I'd known before this morning. I should have mentioned it to the Prime Minister, but it's we'll make sure it gets there too. But thank you to you and your group. Make sure that you say thank you from us and keep up the great work making St. Thomas so much better. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
I suppose I should call for the vote before I go all that way, but all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That is unanimously carried. Excellent job. Thank you.
Your worship, unless there are any further items from the members for this committee?
Councillor Wiki, more?
Oh, you betcha. Not that other people on council haven't thought about this, but I think we're getting to a point, this is more an administrative thing for us as opposed to the general public. It's an internal to our business. We're getting to a point where we're starting talking about affordable housing. Eastwood's doing a lot, but when we get more into this, I think that when I look at it, I kind of don't think it's Mr. Bray's job, and I kind of don't think it's Ms. Sheridan's job in terms of as we morph forward into what we're going to do with not so much the by names list, but on the affordable side of things. I think that we're getting into a world where we need to have a different organizational way of looking at this, and whether that's and how it fits into our strategic plan, all that kind of stuff. Like, so anyway, what I'm thinking is there's lots of seniors or anybody in St. Thomas who say live by themselves for whatever reason. They have like a 3-bedroom house, say, and they have 2 empty bedrooms. And we got lots of people who need places to stay. Like, is there a way is there other communities who have, whether it's a pseudo Airbnb type thing, but where through a monitoring by a municipality, you can match up people who have extra bedrooms with people who want them. And obviously that creates a vulnerable situation for lots of people, either for the person who's hosting or the person staying. But that's why you'd have to have a fairly aggressive monitoring system. So I just want to say that I say this, nothing, I'm not going to notice the motion, nothing like that, but say, I think we're getting to a point where if we want to do more with affordable housing, I think internally in our city, we need to structure who's doing what differently, because I want to repeat that I don't think it fits into Mr. Bray's category, and I don't think it fits into Ms. Sheridan's category in terms of when it's people who are not clients of the city. So that's just what I want to say. It's what's on my mind organizationally. And then I'll bring it back up later on to see if, in fact, there are other communities who are doing things like this, trying to match up supply and demand a little bit differently. Thanks.
Well, there are some out there, of course, Councillor Wookie, and I just give all the work to Ms. Nielsen. And so, look, it is important. And I think even 4.5, 5 years ago, you and I talked about how do we get that? Hey, I'd like to share. I'd like to, the Golden Girls list, I think you called it at the time. How do we do that? And I think that as we near greater amounts of affordable housing, it may be easier for us to get there. It is so over the top complicated right now for us to manage even our lists, our day-to-day lists. A great project like this helps us eat that away a little bit and maybe gives us some light at the end of the tunnel about how else we can work together. And maybe it's part of the seniors' work that we also did too, because that's mostly where it is. So further questions or comments on what Councillor Wookie brought up? No? Anything else under this same committee? No? Okay.
Thank you. We'll move to community engagement and services. First item relates to amendment to bylaw 9697, a bylaw regulating the sale and discharge of fireworks. I have a motion that report FD 0324 relating to the sale and discharge of fireworks regulation be received for information, and further the council authorize the amending of bylaw 96-97 to regulate the discharging and sale of fireworks as set out in report FD 0324. Moved by Councillor Wookie, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments on the amendment to the bylaw regarding sale and discharge of fireworks? Councillor Wookie and then Councillor Kohler.
Thanks. I just want to ask the chief to give a rundown on what he's.
He knew it. He was in a race. He jumped over, he hurdled chairs to get to the podium.
Thank you.
Do you have a question for the chief? Get him ready. Okay.
Just want to see him stand there.
Okay.
If he could give us just a rundown of what's going on, why we're doing this, just because, of course, we read the report, but the general public will not likely have read it. Thanks.
Chief?
Through you, your worship, to Councillor Wookie. Yeah, so we went through this bylaw and we looked at other local municipalities. Fireworks bylaw is all over the place. There's certain municipalities that are very close to us that have eliminated family fireworks. You can't buy them, you can't sell them, you can't discharge them at any time. And then there's other areas that there's permits in place and people don't follow the permits. And then there's areas to the north of us that have it where it's a free for all for fireworks. We wanted to get away from that. The complaints that we have had aren't so much about the fireworks. It's the length of time that was involved with the fireworks in the current bylaw. It allowed for the 2 days prior, 2 days past of the fireworks discharging. So for realistically, you were having fireworks for 5 days in a row. So for people with PTSD, people with pets, and people that just don't want fireworks for 5 days in a row, we looked at this and thought, okay, we'll allow families to have fireworks, but we'll just do it the day before, day after, and we'll see how this goes. And maybe we have to revisit it at another time. We looked at the religious ceremonies. There's 20 or more different religious ceremonies that have fireworks attached to their ceremonies. to add all these in and to be respectful to everyone, you would be having fireworks all the time. But it also, there's a spot in the bylaw that allows for the chief or his designate to allow somebody in writing to allow those celebrations. So we're not eliminating those celebrations. We're just giving you the option. If you want to have that celebration, please reach out and let us know. We are also going to, through our fire prevention department and our social media, we are going to put it out everywhere to say there's a change. If approved, there's a change in the bylaw. This is the days of discharge. These are the days of sale still. And we are going to provide every person that purchases fireworks from any of our vendors, here's a copy of the current bylaw and here's a copy of the burn permit. This is all subject to change if there's weather conditions and stuff. So there will be no lack of communication out there to anyone of how this is going to transpire. So it's not gonna be something new. They're not gonna say they don't know because it's gonna be on every social media website. And it's gonna be, if you buy fireworks, you're gonna be handed a copy of the current bylaw saying, this is when you can buy, this is when you can discharge.
Thank you, Chief. I'll go to Councillor Kohler next.
Thanks, Your Worship. I think the chief touched on it a little bit, but with the length of time, because I see we're gonna try it, because I was just wondering the rationale of the day before and the day after, because I know the people that have talked to me and were concerned about this is exactly that, is that it's the length of time, right? They can manage it when they know it's gonna be on the day. They go and they either go somewhere to make sure they don't have it, but then the surprise of having it another day, either before or after that they're not quite aware of. So I guess if this is just for a trial and we do it, because for myself, I can see us allowing it on the days of, and then everybody knows. And then they can plan around that if they have whatever issues they have with the fireworks. It's just the day before and the day after, it still extends it, and they don't really know if they will have to deal with it the day before or the day after, right? So for myself, I'd kind of like to see it tightened up and just allow it on the days of, and then the other ones through maybe an exception that is hopefully in a more controlled event and maybe away from neighborhoods. But
Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. So it's a great bylaw. Nice to see day before, day after, but my question is going to be, so someone on a Thursday night, a week before, they're lighting off fireworks, so they call customer service at 9 o'clock at night. You reach customer service, thank you for your concern, leave us a comment, we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Like, how is it going to ever be enforced? That would be my question.
Also,
It's probably not your department to enforce it, but I don't know, where is it going to start?
through your worship to Councillor Herbert. So hopefully we can work with bylaw enforcement if it's during the week. I know I'm not 100% sure of their work hours. I know what our work hours are. And if we get anything that's, that's consistent with calls, we will go down. We're there 24/7. We will send a crew to check it out and see what's going on. That's not of it. And the after hours answering service comes with the fire department. Anyway, so after 4:30, if you were to call City Hall right now, it's answered at 305 Wellington Street, and then it's just transferred. So if it is a complaint, it's maybe something that we can deal with, or maybe it's something we pass on down to the road to our friends at the police station. But we hope that we can engage the bylaw enforcement officers to help with this if it does become. But again, back to my original comment, we have not received any real complaints of other than, like Councillor Kohler saying, the length of time. That's why we're trying to tighten this up.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Follow up. So somebody's been caught 3 times lighting off fireworks. They've been charged 3 times. What's the penalty for it? Did they go to jail, or do you fine them, or is there anything in place for that, or is that a different thing?
Through your worship to Councillor Herbert, I don't think they're that extensive. I'd have to look at the bylaw fine. I know what our fines are for if we go in your burning, there's a warning. We come down again, we put it on. If you continue, we do have fines set for burning. So I think that the fine are set out there, and I'd have to reach out to find out what the exact fines are. But at this moment, Councillor, I'm not sure of the fine process. And I don't think we've ever gone to that extreme, to be honest.
you're changing a bylaw, so maybe some people may want to, don't really care, right? They do it anyway. So anyway, thank you. It's a great.
You're welcome.
And sorry, Counselor Peters.
Thanks very much. I don't think whatever we do is going to satisfy everyone, even by just going to the one nights. I know from personal experience of the stress that fireworks have on a little dog, and where Molly is hiding really quick, and so it's. I'm not sure what the balance is, and I think we need to be cognizant of that. I'm concerned as well, though, too, Your Worship, on just the enforcement side. Even the whole time delay of fireworks. I can stand out here on St. Catherine Street, watch somebody light off fireworks on St. George Street. The way the sound travels, I can see that. Then I hear the bang, but by the time I hear the noise, they're done fireworks. So how are you going to send somebody to go say, well, somewhere on St. George Street, somebody's lighting off fireworks? So, and the other challenge is just the sheer number of outlets that suddenly decide to sell fireworks at July 1st or Victoria Day weekend. And how are we going to make sure we're putting staff time going out and seeing who's got a sign out front, fireworks for sale, and then go in and hand them a bunch of papers? So I just sense some challenges in that regard. And the other one that I wanted to flag is the whole written permission, whether it is for Chinese New Year or Diwali or whatever other religious festivities that are going to take place. I don't know how we get the word out saying, folks, you need to get written permission. So anyway, I will support it, but I sense this will be back at us at some point.
Counselor Clark.
One proactive way that some municipalities have done it is they've engaged in partnerships with groups like the professional firefighters and the city, where they run a joint fireworks display. I know in St. Thomas, if you look at the display that Locks had for 1 million years, individual families quit buying their own fireworks because they knew there was going to be a huge show in the north end of town, and it became something that people look forward to. And so it's something that we could consider. We do it on July 1st, and maybe we need to look at being proactive and putting on being known for a large display of fireworks in an event, and it may cut down on individual practices.
Chief, I know you and I have talked, and I think a couple of other councillors shared with you. I think we need to be sure we're talking to the kinsmen who do most of the sales in this community, and so that it's not going to affect them. It will be a period of, and the other groups that sell fireworks, as Councillor Peters said, but I'd like to see those places distributing, here's when you are allowed to use these fireworks. It's the day before, the day of, or the day after. I think that at least is a great way. If you're buying fireworks, you may want to read the notice you just received. So that's a good one. But the other one, I think I need to, I'll just say it. Yeah, these things are hard to police. They're hard for us to do, but even just talking about them gets more people believing in it. And most people, a vast majority of people, are law abiding. And if they know what days it is allowed, they will follow those rules. So Chief, I love what we've started here. Let's find out. We're going to do a test this year, or take a look at it, see how it goes. But I would like us using the fireworks sales places as a notification. If we can, that's a great place to do it. Whether it's great big signs inside it or a small slip of paper that goes with every fireworks sold that says this can be, we know what the dates are in May. We know what the dates are in June and July, around July 1st. So I think we can safely tell them when they can in our community.
Thanks, Your Worship, and we'll be diligent in distributing all that information. And I've said this before, there's so many vendors out there. If you drive outside of the Southwold, Tubbsville areas, there's other areas that you can purchase fireworks 365 days a year. But we don't see it in town here. Like you said, we have a lot of law-abiding citizens. We don't see fireworks a lot. You could, you know, in some areas, there's fireworks all the time. So I think we're on the right track and to Counselor Kohler's point, maybe we look at this and if we tighten it up again. We'll see how this works moving forward and I'm willing to tighten it up even more if that's the will and pleasure of council.
Further questions for the chief? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? Carried. Thanks, chief.
Next item relates to a road closure request for the Nostalgia Nights Car Show. I have a motion that report ES 2824 relating to Nostalgia Nights Car Show road closure request be received for information, and further, the council authorize the closure of the road sections identified within report ES 2824 on Saturday, July the 13th, 2024, between the hours of 3 p.m. and 10 p.m. to allow for the Nostalgia Nights Car Show. Moved by Counselor Clark, second by Counselor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for a road closure for the Old Courthouse Neighborhood Street Party. I have a motion that report ES 2924 relating to the Old Courthouse Neighborhood Street Party road closure request be received for information, and further, that council authorize the closure of Prince Albert Street between Metcalf Street and Isabel Street from 4 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. on Saturday, June the 15th, 2024, to allow for the Courthouse Neighborhood Street Party. Moved by Counselor McCauley, seconded by Counselor Wookey.
Questions or comments? Counselor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. On these road closures, is there the assumption that the fire department's notified these roads are closed ahead of time? Are they?
Through the mayor to Counselor Herbert, we've actually implemented a new system, Transmosis, that identifies all agencies of any road closure, whether it's a water main break or a road closure for a special event.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your worship, unless there are any further items from the members for this committee, we'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. Nothing on the agenda at this time, unless there are any items from the members. I see none, your worship. We'll move into corporate governance and administration. No items at this time.
Counselor Clark?
Thank you, Your Worship. I had a couple calls regarding questions about our protocol on downtown camping. And in particular, the owner was concerned about tents popping up around White Street and Ross Street and around the minor baseball complex. And they were just wondering what the protocol was because the tents were there for 2 or 3 days before they were taken down. And they were just wondering if someone could explain whether or not or why the property owner has to put in the complaint to customer service when we have our downtown policing and we also have our own bylaw officers, why it's taking so long for the tents to be removed.
Okay, I'll ask Heather, Ms. Sheridan on it, but I mean, most of the time, if it's on private property, it's up to we do have to hear from the person who owns the property. Ms. Sheridan? I know we have a protocol because I've read it.
That's right. Actually, it's timely that you would ask that question because next week at council, we are having a presentation by Danielle that will talk about the protocol and also a report. So that'll help public know what's going on and also the updates that we've made. But yeah, as Mayor Preston said, if it's private property, you would contact the police if it's a trespassing issue. If it's public property, then usually we do have people that see sort of what's happening downtown, or you can put a request into customer service. But it does take a couple of days sometimes, sometimes when we go, there's nobody there. So we have to wait and we go back again. And so we want to have communication with the individuals that are there. We want to support them and get them connected with area resources. So it's not as easy as just going and taking a tent down. It's trying to support the people that are there and finding some resources for them.
Councillor Clark?
Great. I think it's good that it's coming up next week because one of their questions was that or comments was that they do phone the police and the police say to call you. And so there's some mix up as to who should take the lead on it. And so I think it's great that we're going to discuss it next week.
Yeah, and Chief Rosscamp will be here too next week to add, and we do, all the directors are involved in that protocol, so we'll all be here to answer any questions. But I would agree and be honest that there is sometimes confusion, and if somebody calls the police and if they don't say it's private property owned by them, then the police dispatch might say call customer service. So it really depends on the information that's given. But yeah, it can be a little bit confusing. I would admit that.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Next topic.
Your Worship, if there's no further items under corporate governance and administration, council will now reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council and committee of the whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Wookie.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next, we move into reports of committees under this particular heading. First item is a 2023 year-end review by the St. Thomas Economic Development Corporation. We have both the CAO and Robert Furneaux, Chair, present to make the presentation.
Who's up first? Mr. Furneaux, good to have you with us today.
Good evening, Your Worship, and distinguished members of council, and thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. My name is Robert Furneaux, and prior to Sean Dyke's year in review presentation, I wish to share a few brief remarks, if I may, as board president of the St. Thomas Economic Development Corporation. On behalf of our board, my fellow directors, and our incredible EDC staff, I wish to extend our collective thanks and sincere appreciation for the strong and continued partnership this city council has extended our EDC. We're extremely grateful for that ongoing support and that which we received from all levels of your municipal team. Can't do what we do without that support as well. The support of council is as important as the support of our community, and we strongly believe we consistently and constantly need to earn both. We embrace our mandate and honor our legacy with equal parts of pride and passion. And as you're aware, the St. Thomas Economic Development Corporation was established in 1957 and remains one of the most experienced development organizations of its kind in Canada. With that honor and achievement, we do not rest on our laurels. Growth and development takes many forms, and through its ranges, we must strive to enrich the lives of our residents, businesses, and visitors alike. And we hope the work at our EDC over the past year furthers that singular purpose that we have. We are an economically diverse community with a thriving business culture, skilled workforce, and vibrant social texture. We cherish our history and celebrate the spirit of the railroad, driving forward, making connections, creating lasting partnerships with others who call St. Thomas home, and all those who may wish to share in our progressive future. As we often say, you are very welcome here. St. Thomas is the destination, and this does not come by chance. It is the collective vision and dedicated effort of many, both within our EDC and across the community, and very much in this council. This is simply our DNA. As our EDC motto so clearly describes, St. Thomas is where possibilities live. Once again, thank you on behalf of our board.
Thank you.
I understand I can share my screen through Zoom for this? All right, thank you. Perfect. I'll echo our board president's comments and thank you all for allowing us to be here tonight. It's really, really exciting to be here at this particular point in time because we get to share all the really good news stories. You know, I recall being here 15 years ago in the height of a pretty negative time in St. Thomas, talking about a lot of businesses that were leaving. And it's so nice to be able to be here at a time where we can talk about the complete opposite and talk about the real, you know, the strides we've taken as a community to really push this forward. And I will echo again what Robert said in that it's not what our team does alone. It's not what council does alone, but it's this whole community that's come together behind itself to really push itself forward. And I'm going to show you some numbers that prove that. But first I want to tell, I know most of you understand what the EDC does, but I know that there's people who might be watching who don't. So I'd like to just briefly share what we do and who we are. I'm going to talk a little bit about things that we're doing throughout the year, some partnerships that we've made. Then I'll get into the exciting numbers that we've got, and I'm happy to answer any questions following that. So our goal as the EDC and our mission is to improve the quality of life in this community, and that takes a lot of different forms. And I'll explain some ways around that. But the most obvious one is the one that most people talk about when they see the EDC. They say, oh, they're out chasing business. They're trying to find these new industries to come to town or helping commercial businesses. But it goes so far beyond that. We've been fortunate in the last year or two to see some significant growth on the industrial side. But really, there's a strong push on the community development side that we've done over the last decade. We've really put a strong focus on improving the product that we have to offer to our community and to external visitors and investors coming in. We want to make sure that this is an attractive community for everyone to invest in, and that includes you and I and my family, my kids and your kids. So we're looking forward to continuing that going forward, and I'll show you some of the ways that we do that. So the EDC is made up of effectively 4 entities. There's the sort of the part that I oversee in our office here, which is primarily on the investment attraction and retention side. We try to help any company that wants to be here successfully. And that includes the ones we already have, and it includes the new ones coming in. The new ones coming in tend to get all the press and the media, but the reality is that the majority of the business that's generated here comes from those that are already here. And we're so excited to have such a diverse group of industries and businesses in our community that have stuck with us through difficult times and are really hopefully going to really experience a real positive in the next few years. But some of the other things that we do in the community that are really important is supporting that small business community here in St. Thomas. And our Small Business Enterprise Center works with a number of partners, and we get a fair amount of funding from the provincial government and from Elgin County to make that happen across St. Thomas and Elgin County. And just to share a few numbers, over the last year, the fiscal year for this is April 1st to March 31st, so it just ended not too long ago. Our team had 856 consults with different businesses in that time period. So that's about 17 a week. And these aren't 5-minute conversations. These are long drawn out things that require follow-up and a lot of work. And then from that, 256 new jobs were created in this community. And the community is broad. It's all of Elgin County and St. Thomas. 86 businesses were started and 50 businesses were expanded. We sustained 122 businesses, which is a new metric that the province has put in. And we were able to give out $110,000 in grants, which allowed businesses to leverage $1.7 million in reinvestment in our community. So the SBEC is one of over 50 in Ontario and consistently recognized as one of the best. So we're very fortunate to have a great team working there, consistently out in the community, and not just working on that. They would help us work on other things that we do, like the Horton Farmers Market, which hopefully everyone had a chance to visit last weekend. This couple days ago, it opened. Made almost $30,000 in sales for the vendors that were there. We had 62 vendors, which is huge for an opening day for us. Previously, our record would have been about 49. In 2019, the market throughout the year made about $600,000 in total sales for the vendors. The EDC took it on a couple of years later in 2021. There wasn't really a market in 2020 to speak of. And in 2023, that number grew to $788,000 in total revenue for those vendors. So what we decided to do is try to up that even more. We said, well, why are we only using this during the summer months? Let's open it in the winter. So we did. And since we had the winter market and then one full season and another winter market, generated over $1.1 million in sales for producers in Elgin County and St. Thomas. This is a huge number that gets translated. The numbers that market people use is 3.24 times as far as the economic impact is of those dollars. So you're talking over $3 million in total impact on the community.
So that's massive. It's a very small investment that we make as a community in it. Our team does a lot of work on it, but at the same time, we see the benefits almost immediately with those companies. On the tourism side, you'll see we have speakers up in the downtown right now. We haven't started playing Christmas music in the spring yet, but we're looking forward to maybe a Christmas in July. I like Christmas music. We've got a number of events that we're supporting coming up. We're of course getting more murals in place. There's one on the screen now that's the newest one that was just put up this year behind Jennings. A beautiful mural. There will be another one going up near the Horton Farmers Market that's going to be absolutely gorgeous. Really looking forward to that. And we've redone a number of our guides, and we've got a new taste guide out, which talks about all the different food options around St. Thomas and Elgin County. And then we've redone all the trail maps. The amount of trails we have in this community are incredible for hiking and biking and walking. It really is amazing. So hopefully we can encourage locals and visitors alike to get out and experience what it's like to be here in St. Thomas. Some of I'm not going to go through all of our partnerships, but we partner with a ton of different groups, and we wouldn't be here talking about all the positives without the incredible support we get from some of these groups and from the community as a whole. Again, I'm not going to go through it, but I wanted to recognize that we get funding from the federal, provincial government and the city, of course. So thank you for your continued support. But what about 2023? 2023 was the best year we've ever had, actually, with the exception maybe of 1 year. So we're pretty excited to talk about it. This is what I'm showing here are building permit numbers. So these are historical building permits. And we've taken out institutional because sometimes it doesn't always reflect on the business side what's going on. It also would show that when things like the courthouse and the psych hospital were built around us, there's pretty significant numbers that change if you're investing $200 or $300 million in 1 year in something, it really skews the numbers a little bit. So to give you an idea of where we're at right now in 2023, that's a 10-year comparison of where we were at. And I'm going to say this a few times probably, but we all know that PowerCo announced their investment last year. None of this has anything to do with that in the sense that this was all en route to happening before that was announced. And none of the work that's been done on that site yet has been put into this. So looking at 2023 there, historically, it's significant. Looking at how it compares to 2022, which wasn't a terrible year. It was a pretty good year. I expect the slide will change eventually. You can see, maybe not. Changed on my screen. I may have to talk without, I'll stop sharing and reshare again. Pardon me. Technical difficulties. I think it's booted me from the internet. Yeah, it's okay. I'll get it here. All good. It's going to work, I promise. Maybe. Look at that, $100 million more. It was all just to build suspense was what that was. So year over year, $100 million in extra spending on building in our community. These are all based on what people spend to build facilities in the community. And that's a huge number in our history. We've had years where you don't even see $100 million. And so the brunt of that is residential growth. And you'll see that last year we had the second best year ever for residential. And if you look at the last 5 years, there's over 2,000 new housing starts. That includes apartments, townhouses, semis, and I'll show you the breakdown of that. But year over year, you're not quite double, but pretty close as far as how many new housing starts there were. The one trend that we're seeing that'll be interesting for St. Thomas, and that we haven't seen a lot of apartment growth in the last few decades, really. We've seen a lot of single family home growth. Last year was actually our lowest ever year for single family homes. And I think it's pretty clear what the reason for that is. And if you look at the interest rates, and that's just the highest rate each year of what's happened over time, you'll see that as the interest rates spike, the housing stock changes, right? And the housing stock has changed more to the apartment and townhouses over the last few years. So this is how it's mixed. You've got pink is the semi and townhouse units there. You can see a significant growth in those over the last year compared to previous years. best ever in the past was 89. Last year, we had 207 semis and townhouses built in our community. And the big white block there is something we haven't seen a lot of in St. Thomas, and that's the apartment growth. And that's going to continue over the next little while as well. I do have a bit of a teaser of 2024 for you today too. But this is the last 24 years in St. Thomas of what's happened. So you look at where we were and where we're at today. This is more than inflation. I recognize that the dollar is higher in part because of inflation, but this shows a significant commitment and investment in our community. Every dollar that's spent here represents jobs that have gone into developing and building projects. And we can be very thankful to our industries, our builders, our residents for really reinvesting in our community. So how are we doing this year? Thought I'd bring up a little bit about 2024 since we're here and it's already past the first quarter. I probably wouldn't mention it if it wasn't good, but since it's good, I'm going to share the numbers. The first quarter of 2024 is better than entire years we've had in the past. So you can see on that we've had significant industrial growth. If you look at that bottom pink, that's the very bottom one is the industrial one. It's actually, we've done more industrial growth in the last 3 months, this is to the end of March, than any year in St. Thomas's history. This is massive for a community that hasn't even seen some of the largest growth that's going to happen yet. And then as we look forward to that, the housing starts in our first quarter of this year. In 3 months, we did 235 new housing starts. In 2022, our total was 249. So we're looking pretty good as we start this year. And I'm hopeful to be able to come back at some point in the not too distant future and share how we've done the rest of the year. But I wanted to share this too. So in the past 6 months, that big thick line that goes across that chart shows how many houses we've built in the last 6 months and how that would compare to the last 10 years of our history. So in the last 6 months, we've actually done more housing in St. Thomas from a housing unit standpoint than we've done in any other year other than 2023 and 2020. So that's pretty massive for the last 6 months of growth in our community. And why is that? Well, some of it is apartment buildings like the Highlands or Alma College Square, where we've seen these nice new buildings go up with and the one that was presented earlier is going to add to that too. Another 82 units going up in our community is significant for the housing, inventory that we have in the community. And then I talked about a little bit about the industrial growth, and I know the picture up top with the Pickleplex isn't necessarily industrial, but it's in the industrial park. So, and it'll be a great indoor place for people to go play pickleball. But we're seeing right now in our community massive growth from Element 5. Who's been involved in a number of projects locally and beyond. Amino is significantly adding to their facility. Vicano is the company that's building that development across the north of Dennis Road, really attracting some nice new clients to our industrial area. And they've also got the project on the corner of Ron McNeil and Highbury on that triangular shaped piece there, where they're planning to build up to 1.4 million square feet of industrial space. That's a massive development for St. Thomas. If you look at us comparable, that's the size of Formet, a little bit bigger than Formet Industries, which is currently our largest facility in St. Thomas. So we're seeing that as new growth. Magna's, of course, building at Burwell and Talbot, and Maxil has recently started construction on their project on Silver Street. So great new growth from existing companies, reinvesting in our community, showing that they support it. On the institutional side, I think everyone's familiar with what's going on, but the hospice will be under construction this year and will be an amazing new addition to our community, along with all of the affordable housing options that have been built by the city and others. If anyone hasn't had a chance to look at the Holiday Inn yet, it is fantastic. It really is an amazing space. We've had a few clients stay there already, and they're very pleased to have it in St. Thomas. It's a nice addition to the other nice hotels that we've got around us as well. PowerCo, I'm not going to talk a lot about PowerCo because nothing's actually happened last year as far as investment goes, but I think we can be it's fairly obvious that we're going to have some significant investments in our community. So I'm going to have to use different charts. The ones that I have aren't going to work once this gets up there. When we start talking in the billions, I can't even put the lines on the same graph. So what this community is going to experience and what it's experiencing right now on the growth and construction side is absolutely game changing for the city and for the community as a whole. So we're looking forward to the support, and we thank the council for everything that you've done for us. I had the chance to go to the PowerCo supplier days, and I can say that there's going to be more investment from suppliers to PowerCo in the next, will be announced in the next few months, I'm sure. We have no idea who they're going to be or what they're going to do yet, quite honestly, but we're very confident that we'll see some additional growth in that industrial park that's on the screen right now. That's a 1,500-acre industrial park, of which PowerCo is using just under 400 acres. So that gives us, after you take out the hydro corridors, roads and everything like that, stormwater ponds, we've still got about 800 acres of industrial land ready to sell to suppliers or other clients that want to be in St. Thomas. We're in a very good position across this province, and there's not a lot of other communities can offer what we're offering right now, fully serviced and ready to go. So we're in a great spot. I'm just going to leave you with some events that are coming up because that's our tourism spin, but also from a community development side, we want everybody to be out at these events. Obviously, the market's open every Saturday. The Bike Festival's coming up. St. Anne's Festival is an annual event that really draws in the crowds. I mentioned Nostalgia Nights earlier in the council meeting. Railway City Music and Arts is a nice festival that's happening in August. Our Bridges to Better Business event's going to have an amazing musical entertainer that I can't say who it is yet. Oktoberfest will be our second event we're doing this fall. There's lots more events than these, but I just wanted to highlight the big ones that we're pushing right now. So thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Councillor Peters, ask Mr. Dyke how many years he's been with us.
How many years have you been with us?
20 years.
12 years.
We celebrated that and he didn't want to bring it up, so I thought if it came from council would be better.
I didn't get invited to that party. Thanks, your worship, to Sean. Sean, this is positive news all around, but are there any red flags, yellow flags that or things that we need to be doing as a council to keep this momentum going? Is there anything that's troubling you looking ahead?
No, I think, excuse me, I really think that the push that council is doing on the housing side has been very effective. That's, to me, that's the biggest sort of bottleneck that we're going to face in the coming years. We're going to have a lot of people moving to this community, and we'd love to capture as much of that as we can. We know London and we know Elgin County are going to capture some of it as well, but the reality is there's going to be thousands of people that want to live here. And the more that council can do to support the staff that are working so hard to make sure that those permits get out and the houses get built and the apartment buildings go up. You're very fortunate to have an amazing team behind you working at the city. I hear about it from investors all the time. And the more support that council can provide to those city, the management team at the city and their staff is really going to help go forward.
I saw another hand. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. That's fantastic news for our city. I mean, you guys and your team do a great job for our city and you keep bringing them and we keep supporting them. We're happy to do that. So my question on your charts, 2020 seemed to be massive on all your charts. Was that before COVID or after COVID or during COVID? I'm not sure the relationship with being so busy. So thank you.
Thank you. Actually, it was before and during COVID. The first year of COVID was the best year the city had ever had to that point. And I think a lot of that is because that demand was pent up already and people were building prior to the announcement of COVID, the shutdown at that time. So we were very pleased with that year, aside from all the other little things that kept us at home.
Councillor Clark.
Thanks. I was just interested in the PowerCo offices in the old Van Pelt building. Just wondering how many people will see working there and how many are working there now?
Thank you. Yeah, the Doug Terry Group have done an amazing job developing that site into one of the nicest offices you'll find in southwestern Ontario. I would put it up against anyone in London anytime. And the 50 people that are working there right now have already had a significant impact on a lot of downtown businesses. They're shopping downtown, they're going out for lunch, they're having coffee. And that's going to turn into a much more significant number. Right now it's 50. By the end of this year, we're expecting around 100. Within the next 2 years, probably 300 people working in that building at any given time.
Lots of special things going on. Sean, thank you and your team. And we know how hard the whole team works. So thank you for what's going on in our community, and we can avoid ever having down years again by how we treat these years and how much we put in place to be prepared. So I can't pick anything up from it that I would say anything, but let's just keep doing what we're doing. And I agree with you, trying to look ahead for 2024. There's not enough headspace on top of the chart for it to take what will happen. So we'll figure out, we'll go sideways or something.
I think it just means a lot more pickleball courts.
Yeah. Apparently, that's the reward, right? Other questions for Mr. Dyke? Seeing none? Thank you for making your presentation tonight.
Thank you very much.
Your worship, we'll now move into petitions and communications. The first item is a request for a proclamation, flag raising and jumbo lighting for childhood cancer awareness. I have a motion that council of the city of St. Thomas proclaim September 2024 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the city of St. Thomas, and further that childhood cancer gold ribbon flag be flown at City Hall from September 16th to 22nd, 2024, and further that the jumbo monument be lit in blue from September 16th to 22nd, 2024. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Wookey.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for a proclamation and jumbo lighting for neurofibromatosis awareness. I have a motion that council of the city of St. Thomas proclaim May 17th, 2024 as Neurofibromatosis Awareness Day in the city of St. Thomas, and further that the jumbo monument be lit in blue and green on May 17th, 2024. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for jumbo lighting from VON. I have a motion that the jumbo monument be lit in blue from May 19th, 2024 to May 25th, 2024 in recognition of VON Week. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
That concludes the items on the agenda under petitions and communications. Unless there are any items from the members, we'll now move into unfinished business of council. Your worship, seeing none, we'll now move into new business of council.
I have just one. I wanted to recognize a great event last week. We were all at the 50th anniversary of Indwell as an organization. Some great celebration done there on their lifetime of work in the field of housing, but some great recognition from them also as to how St. Thomas, how good St. Thomas has been to work with our staff, and how we're kind of being talked about around the province as to how we're making headway in what Indwell does best, and that's supportive housing. So wanted to make sure, and I thank the councillors that were there with me also last week, but it was a great event, and we can recognize a organization like Indwell. We should all take the time to do so.
Thank you, Your worship. If there are no further items, we'll now move into bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws, moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Peters.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Peters, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on May 13th, 2024.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Hydro One Networks, Inc. This relates to Highbury Avenue widening easement on Part 1, 11R 2485.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Third bylaw is a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Hydro One Networks, Inc. Again, relates to Highbury Avenue widening easement, and that is on Part 1, Lot 9, Range 1, North Edgeware Road.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Fourth and final bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Hydro One Networks, Inc. This relates to the transmission line corridor easement.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. I rise and report the successful passing of 4 bylaws.
I have a motion by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Peters, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 4 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time and grossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next, we have public notice. Notice is hereby provided that the St. Thomas Economic Development Corporation intends to introduce a report at the June 3rd, 2024 council meeting requesting approval of an unbudgeted operating budget expenditure relating to funding for a joint Downtown Development Board EDC Downtown Business Advisor position. No notices of motion. There is a need to move into closed session. I have motioned that this meeting be closed to deal with a proposed or pending disposition of land and a personal matter about an identifiable individual. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Wookie.
Thank you very much. Before I call the vote, I'll do as we normally do. We'll be going into closed session now. The council meeting will continue into open session after the closed session, only long enough to adjourn for the evening. So we'd like to thank all of you who joined us tonight on streaming or joined us publicly. And we thank you for coming. And all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.